Welcome again to our lesson 2 on group dynamics, where today we'll be looking at typology and classification of groups. On what basis do we classify different groups? My name again is Professor Kennedy Mutundu, Associate Professor of Anthropology, Department of Social and Development Studies, Mount Kenya University. Let's see what we want to cover for the next 20 or 30 minutes or so. One is that classifying groups and identifying what constitutes a groups and how you can categorize them is the first step in understanding group dynamics. Group dynamics is a sociological or anthropological concept to understand the complexity of groups. So the first step in doing this is classifying groups and categorizing those groups and understanding the different categorization. Groups vary quite a lot in terms of the goals and objectives of that particular group that you're interested in, the size of the group and its membership, the structure, roles, and leadership of that group, the level and type of interaction and behavior of that group, how long that group is, whether it is permanent or it's just temporary, and the level of cohesiveness of groups. Out of this, then, we can identify a number of classifications. One is whether a group is formal or informal, whether a group is primary or secondary, whether a group can be referred to as an in-group or an out-group, voluntary and involuntary groups, temporary and permanent groups. Then we have a category on its own that we call reference groups. That's what we want to look at, but there are many other different ways that, again, you can look at the groups, but this can guide us on how groups can be classified. Let's start with formal and informal groups. Formal groups. These groups have a name. In most cases, these groups have a name that identifies and defines that group. It has a formal structure, and it has its membership with very clear roles on what the members do. So that is a company that is registered, or an association, a society that is registered somewhere and known by that. It may not be registered, but at least it's a formal group that exists. It is based on rules that are more or less rigid. The rules are rigid. Once set down by society, the scope of variations is very limited. So there are rules that when an association or a company is set up, there is the constitution of that company or that group, so you cannot change that very easily. Formality and impersonality determine the basis of the relationship, as is in the cases of the employer and the employee. There are formal relationships between the employer and the employee. Okay, that is what we call formal groups. In contrast to that, we have got informal groups that have informal structures, membership and roles. Members can come in and go out. Somebody can decide, I'm leaving without any obligations. There are few obligations to that. The rules of behavior or the codes that determine the relationships of the individual comprising it are not fixed or determined by any process of deliberation. So there are no specific rules. There is no process of deliberation in setting up these rules. There are informal structure, membership, and the roles are not specific. We can distinguish groups like that. So formal and informal groups. Then we have primary and secondary groups. Primary groups are groups where members know one another, and as opposed to secondary groups where you don't even know who the members of your group are. Primary groups, you probably know the members, know them personally, know their lives. It comes out of spontaneity and limited membership. The membership is limited. Okay, it may be formal or not formal, but the membership is limited. We have close physical proximity and interaction, regular interaction, but it is close proximity. The group might probably be living in one particular area who has got a background of physical proximity. They are in direct and close contact with one another. They are emotionally connected. The nucleus of social organization. A family, a women merry-go-round, or a social gather, a group of young people in rural areas can constitute what we call primary groups. Secondary groups, they are not close and they do not have direct contact. They may just know that they belong to a group. They have little group spirit or group consciousness. They're not aware of each other. There's no direct relation with the other. Okay, so political parties, students' unions or labor units, business guilds can be examples of secondary groups. Then we have got a classification, another categorization of in-group and out-group. Okay, the in-group, a categorization that views we, which is called the in-group, versus the other, which refers to the out-group. So the in-group members view themselves as direct, as distinct from another that is identifiable or non-existent. In-group is most likely be a family, for instance. That is an in-group. The out-group stands in contrast with the in-group unless one views the former in the context of the other. The out-group would stand for a collection of individuals for whom a set of individuals have a feeling of strangeness, dislike, animosity, or even hostility. So the out-group, you refer to it when you have all these things that you think about when you are looking at the other group. Then we have temporary and permanent groups. As the words indicate, temporary is established to achieve short-term goal or task. It is to address an immediate but ending problem. So, and again, it's planned out, its lifespan is clear. It is terminated or dissolved when its intended purpose is finished. So a task force, an ad hoc committee, a funeral or wedding committee, a school discussion group is a temporary group. Okay. Permanent group is established or exists for long-term goals that are not time-bound. Formation of such group is natural or has depth of history. A family, for instance, is natural formation. It is a standing army or a family is a permanent group. Continuously accommodates new members and others who are lost through natural attrition. Okay, those are permanent groups. Then we have voluntary and involuntary groups. The voluntary deliberate choice is made to belong as members, okay, or is constituted with a premeditated and deliberate objective, as opposed to involuntary. No choice of the group members. Members of a family do not belong to a group or out of any deliberate choice made by them. So that is another distinction again that you can make of groups, voluntary and involuntary groups. Then we have got reference groups. A reference group is a group that people compare themselves to. It provides a standard of measurement. You want to belong to a certain peer group. The main objective of reference groups are to seek social validation and social comparison. Social validation allows individuals to justify their attitudes. Social comparison helps individuals evaluate their own actions by comparing themselves to others. Okay? So reference groups have a strong influence on members' behavior. Family, friends, and religious affiliations are strong reference groups for most individuals. So a group that you aspire to belong to, a group that you refer yourself to and you want to identify yourself, it relates so much to when you want to acquire esteem or social status, you join that particular group for that particular purpose. Okay, so for that component of our lesson, this is the assignment that we want us to look at. From the foregoing discussion, explain which groups have greater influence on individuals' character and personality. From the foregoing, the different categorization, pick out any categorization and be able to explain which category or categorization has greater influence on individuals' character and personality. So any categorization or any class of any type of group that has greater influence on character, on individuals' character and personality. And which groups have the least attributes of sociality? Remember what we discussed about sociality? Okay, sociality, social relations, interrelationships, belongingness. Which of these groups have the least attributes of sociality? Now let's see how we can understand groups in terms of not just why people get into groups. We have an idea now how people get into groups and the different classifications of groups, but we want to be now academic and say what do anthropologists, sociologists, or social scientists, how do they explain how groups get formed? So we'll be looking at that. What are the stages and key features of group formation? Groups move from one stage to the other. Not all groups are the same at the same time and they have the same behavior. So we want to look at the stages and key features of group formation. What are the factors that affect group behavior? What are the factors that determine group cohesiveness? What are the factors that contribute to group failure or group breakup? This is what you want to look at again in the next 20 or so minutes. Okay. Sociological perspectives and group formation. What have sociologists and anthropologists used to explain group dynamics? There is the perspective of functionalism. In my presentation, I distinguish perspectives and theories. Perspectives is a conglomeration of different theories, a group of theories that no longer just answer to a theory, but have got different theories that make up a perspective. So functionalism is a perspective, and many people have contributed to this, including Bronislaw Malinowski, an anthropologist, Emil Durkheim. And if you use functionalism to understand group dynamics, you'll see that groups serve to fulfill a function. Groups function to fulfill the needs of individuals and society and also the group. So groups must be understood and explained in terms of how they function to fulfill the needs of individuals and the needs of society through those groups. So groups is an avenue of organizing society and meeting the needs of society. And those needs could be psychological needs, could be emotional needs, could be social needs, could even be material needs. Then the systems theory, although it's a theory, but it is much more of a perspective than a theory. It brings up so many ideas where individuals or groups are components of a system, where different components playing different roles that meet the needs of individuals and those of our society. One good way of understanding group dynamics. Okay. Then you have got conflict perspectives that are associated a lot with Karl Marx. Groups are avenues that reflect differences in society. Groups are avenues or platforms that reflect differences in society, differences that are always in conflict. Groups represent different interests and conflicts in society. Groups are used as avenues or platforms of competition for scarce resources. Okay, that's conflict. Then psychoanalysis, a good example, Sigmund Freud, they look at groups in terms of how they fulfill psychological, emotional needs of individuals. Different perspectives that can be used to understand groups, group behavior, and group formation. Then look at some theories that we can use, specific theories, not perspectives that bring different theories together, but specific theories, like the classic theory, to explain how a group forms. Groups develop on the basis of activities, goals, interactions, and sentiments. When this happens, when individuals share common initiatives and goals that are unique, they will have more interaction and will develop attitudes, either positive or negative, toward each other. The main element is interaction of the individuals involved. So that's the classic theory of why groups form. When people come together, they'll identify what is common to them, and naturally a group will form out of this. Then social exchange theory, individuals form the relationship on the basis of implicit expectation of mutually beneficial exchanges based on trust and felt obligation. Exchange relationships will be positive if persons are able to be attracted and to affiliate with the other group. So you join a group not just naturally, but with the intention that and expectation that you will get something out of it. Then you have the social identity theory. Individuals get a sense of identity and self-esteem based on their membership and in salient groups. The group is demographically, culturally, and organizationally based. So three theories. One, classic theory, people coming together, having common interests, and then a group. Out of interaction, a group forms. Or the social exchange theory, where you join a group or you're a member of a group with the expectation that you'll get something out of it, material or social or emotional. Then identity, that explains that people get into a group to have a sense of identity and self-identification against other groups of people. Three theories. So let us look at the stages of how a group forms. You have got the first stage, the forming, the storming, and then the norming, performing, and adjourning. And these words can communicate some sense of how a group starts out in a loose way, develops up into actualizing its objectives, and then delivers on its objectives, and then towards the end it can stay for long periods of time so long as the stage 4 is sustained, or the group can break up when stage 4 is not sustained. So that's just a way of looking at it. This is a summary of each of these, but let's go into each of them to see what is entailed in each of them. You have got stage 1, the forming stage. This is the polite stage. Polite. It focuses on getting acquainted and feeling comfortable. Conflict is low, suppressed, and this need for approval is high. This is when groups of people or individuals get together. They are learning each other. They are anxious, but they are hoping that things will work out so that they can understand each other and find common objectives and common way of doing things. And then verbal members tend to dominate a little bit. The ones who are a bit outspoken will dominate, but this cannot bring problems. Because people are cautious, they are trying to study. There is the ability to accomplish group tasks and stay focused is low. People are not ready to invest a lot and accomplish. In fact, the roles are not quite clear. So the ability to accomplish group tasks and stay focused is still low. There's little listening, high distortion of what is heard. People are watchful and guarded. Personal feelings are kept hidden. There's much of giving, of asking for information and data. People ask more about what is going to happen to that group. There is some inclusion and a little bit of exclusion issues. New and old group members can come in. That's the first stage. You can see it's a bit unstable, and people are coming in to find information. They're curious, but again, some people might become outspoken, but again, this is controlled at the forming stage. The next stage is that of storming. Now people now, the time for reckoning on who is a member of the group and who is the leader and what are objectives, this is what is called storming. It's a stormy period. So subgroups or individuals attempt to influence ideas, so there is deliberate effort by individuals and members of the group to influence others and take up opinions and ensure that the opinions go through. This competition for attention, recognition, and influence. People confront each other, and there is some bit of interpersonal conflict. We have polarization and lack of shared vision because people have not understood each other, the roles have not understood. There is a lack of recognition of who is the leader. Leadership has also not established, so members may opt out. So a few members may say, no, I can't stay into this, or cliques or alliances form. If a group has to continue, then alliances will form, or this number 4 will be resolved. There is unsolicited comments. People will make their own comments because they're not clear even on what the objectives are. There is a sense of feeling struck and frustrated, a little bit of frustration. Then emotional reaction to task or misperceptions about task. Process issues discussed outside the meeting. You'll find that during this time, you find your issues are even being discussed outside the group. There's a sense of quick fix, address symptoms, and you skirt around problems. We have got power inequities, struggle as members jockey for position. This is a stormy period, and it's characterized by conflict, misunderstanding, miscommunication. But if the group gets out of this and out of this way, then they go to the next stage when things start normalizing, the norming, the stage. So there is some authority and leadership. When a stormy situation has taken for some time, there's the emergence of authority and leadership issues, and it's discussed and resolved. Some members will emerge to do that. Issues, not people, are confronted. So you confront an issue other than confronting the people. Cohesion among group members begins. Subgroups disappear. Members actively listen to each other. Appreciation and acceptance of alternative points of view. Okay, risky issues, process issues brought up in the meetings, and people are not afraid to discuss them. We have got ability to remain focused on task. People don't leave, people don't divert like in the storming stage. Quiet people now contributing more in the group. People who are quiet contribute more in the group. Values and assumptions begin to get discovered. Values, common norms begin to be established and discovered and discussed. Relevant questions are asked. We don't have things being intruded. Individuals move beyond blame to responsibility. And more important, the group now starts to identify itself as a group with common tasks and common interests. The normalization of the group now. The next stage is that after things have normalized, then the group now goes to the next stage of delivering on the objectives and the goals of that group. So the performing stage. So the goal achieving stage. The set established goals are achieved. Members are bound by achievement of the goals. So when the goals are being achieved, now you are bound by them. The fruits and the benefits of the group starts coming out. So members try new behaviors and accept new ideas because now you are stable. Members relate with the honesty, respect, and authenticity. Problems and difficult issues are dealt with, handled creatively. Diversity is affirmed and welcomed. People can accept others for what they are. You can recognize why people are different. Member resourcefulness is utilized. People can contribute their resources. Decision-making process to be used is understood. Frequent review of process issues. Clarity on how members experience each other. Outside help resources is welcome. Before you could not even accept ideas from outside. Differences are bridged with integrity and commitment to work towards common goals. That's the performing stage. The last stage is the adjourning stage. And if the groups continues to stay with the objectives are still the same, it does not get to this stage. The sense of the group is that the work is done and that maybe the apprehension over the impending loss of group identity and friendships, cleaning up the groups and done tasks and removing symbols of the group. This is when now a group probably breaks up amicably. But we know also that groups can fail to get to this amicable dissolution of the group until they break up without the peace that is characterized in stage 4. Okay? Okay, quick assignment just to cover up that bit of our discussion. Using an experience of belonging to or knowing a group, explain how the group experienced or did not the 4 stages of group development. I've excluded the 5th stage. So using an experience of belonging to or knowing a group, if you know of any group, explain how the group experienced or did not the 4 stages of a group. So we want to see a very specific example of how this happened. So let's go to group behavior now. How the group behaves. Let's understand what group behavior entails. This is actions, activities, goals, attitudes, norms, and values that are shared and characterized and are unique to a social group. So essentially what the whole group is all about in terms of behavior and in terms of its actions, activities, and all that. That's what we call group behavior. It is associated but not exclusive. It is associated but not exclusive with the performance stage of group. So if you want to understand group behavior, look at that group when it is delivering, okay, in a positive way, which is distinguished by stability and achievement of goals. Group behavior is how the group actualizes its goals through effective use of its resources. So how the group is now actualizing its objectives, effective role playing, group norms and values. This is not to say that you will have, when these aspects of the group are not being delivered, but in terms of the standard and ideal, group behavior will have these things happening. Number 4, how a group accomplishes its goals through group collective activities. And number 5, how cohesiveness is sustained through achievement of goals and resolution of threats to group cohesiveness. So behavior, there are all the activities, the actions that are informed by attitudes, norms and values, and it is associated with delivery and performance, and how the goals are actualized, how the activities are taken care of, and how a group remains cohesive. That's what we call group behavior. We want to look at the factors that are going to affect group behavior. This group behavior is affected by quite a number of factors. The first factor is group members' resources. The resources that a group has. The members' knowledge, abilities, skills, and personality characteristics. These are the human resources of a group. Now, a group that has got diverse and human resource capital is able to deliver on its resources. It also includes self-reliance and independence. These are characteristics that define the human resourcefulness of a group. Then you also have the material resources, the assets, tenure system ownership, who owns the resources, and how these resources are appropriated. If we have a system of how, if we don't have resources, material resources or assets, then the delivery of some objectives might not take place. But again, not all groups are based on material resources. They are probably based on emotional and social issues or social capital more than material resources. So success depends upon these resources to support activities and tasks. So the success, cohesiveness, or how a group will form from one stage to the other is also affected by the resources of a group. Then the group behavior actions and all that, a group behavior is also affected by group size and group structure. How big a group is and who makes up that group. Small groups of 2 or 10 are more effective because each member has ample opportunity to take part and engage actively in the group. So smaller groups are more effective. But again, smaller groups may not have the diversity that we have in large groups. Large groups may waste time by deciding on who processes and trying to decide who should participate next. But again, homogeneity is an advantage, but heterogeneity and diversity can also be resourceful to a group. Okay, so that's number 2, group size and group structure. Let's look at another factor, group roles, the roles of group members. We have informal groups. Roles are always predetermined and assigned to members. Formal groups, like a company, where you have got employer and employees with different members performing specific tasks, the roles are always predetermined and assigned to members. Each role shall have specific responsibilities and duties. And group cohesiveness or group strength is going to be affected by this also. So we have these roles. Work roles are tasks-oriented activities, the ones that you perform. Maintenance roles are social, emotional activities that help members to maintain their involvement in the group and raise their personal commitment to the group. Then you have got also roles that are not really positive. There are roles that members can play that may not contribute to the strength. They are called blocking roles. Then the group norms will affect how a group behaves. Norms define standards or boundaries of acceptable and unacceptable behavior shared by group members. They facilitate group survival, make behavior more predictable, avoid embarrassing situations, and express the values of the group. So a group actually cannot do without norms if it has to survive. Group exerts pressure on members to conform to the group standards. The norms reflect the level of commitment, motivation, and performance of the group. The majority of the group must agree to acceptable norms. There must be a shared understanding. Norms can only take root, can only help a group if they are accepted by the majority of the group members. If the majority of the members do not adhere to the norms, then they will eventually change and will no longer serve as a standard for evaluating the behavior. So group members who do not conform to the norms will be punished by being excluded, ignored, or asked to leave. So norms, even though it's not, may appear not to be a critical component of group cohesiveness or the behavior of a group, but they define what a group is. Okay. Then you have group cohesiveness. The behavior of group is reflected by how cohesive it is. So cohesiveness refers to the bonding of group members or unity, feelings of attraction for each other, and desire to remain part of the group. The level of group cohesiveness is determined by agreement on goals, frequency of interaction, personal attractiveness, intergroup competition, favorable evaluation. So how cohesive a group is determined by that. The more difficult it is to obtain a group membership, the more cohesive the group will be. So if a group is closed and to find membership into that group is difficult, then that group is fairly cohesive. Groups are also tend to become cohesive when they are in intense competition with other groups or face serious external threats. So when you have got the in group and you have got an out group, then that group is likely to be cohesive. Smaller groups are those who spend considerable time together and also tend to be more cohesive. So group cohesiveness is an important factor of group dynamics. Then if things are not working out, groups are going to collapse and they will not be cohesive, they will not meet their goals. How does this come about? It is lack, changed or diminished, shared purpose or goals and related activities. Remember, there are benefits and reasons why people get involved in groups, and if this changes, the goals change and related activities diminish, then the group is going to collapse or dissolve itself or break up. So we have also resource-based factors. When you do not have resources to sustain a group, if you formed a group and your material resources or people leave, even the group leaders who contribute ideas leave the group, it can also contribute to the failure of the group. Then you have got weak organizational structure, where we do not have a good structure for who is the leader, what the roles of the groups are, and the rules are also not clear. It can also contribute to group failure and group dissolution. Okay, then lack of effective and shared recognized leadership. There's no leader, there's no leadership, there's no one to resolve issues. That can also contribute. Then this lack of trust and accountability. When issues arise out of trust, people take trust to be a very important component of a group. That is the norm. That's what glues the group together. If that runs out, then that group is going to dissolve or fail. But we can also have external factors that the group has no control over, which will now contribute to all these external factors. The rules change. The group is disallowed by law. That can also affect that group. It can also make a group to fail. Okay. So as we come to the end of group behavior, this is a fairly known quotation by Graham Gibbs, who noted that a team of students had 4 members called everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done. And these are the group members: everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. And everybody was so sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. it ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. So this group failed, this group dissolved itself because of some reasons. So the reasons were that we had a problem of leadership, we have a problem of leadership, we have the problem of identity, all these things, goals, activities, tasks, leadership, expectations, obligations, cohesiveness are reflected in this problem here. So use the above. That's the assignment that we'll want to work on. Use the above or personal experience. Use this and your personal experience to explain factors that contribute to group failure or dissolution. From your own experience, you have seen a group failing. Why was that? Can you use this example to explain how that group failed? Okay, and it captures all these things that we've been discussing. Okay, and that is the end of our lesson 3. Thank you again for listening.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.